Hello again. It is your common sense catechist, and I'm John, and I'm here today to talk about something that, again, I'm passionate about, and that is literature. And today we're going to talk about the classic of all classics, and that is Dante's Divine Comedy. Now, I took a class on this during my master's classes about 10 years ago, and a wonderful, wonderful professor who led us through the depths of hell into the toils of purgatory and the glories of heaven. For anybody who's reading this and has questions about it, one of the things to understand is the order. It is so ordered, and this is a reflection of the medieval mind. When I teach AP, I do teach this. And the reason I teach this book is because it is such a good indication of the writing and the thoughts of the medieval man. And one of the things to keep in mind is the perfect order. So many things I could go over here just in the prologue, talking about the number of cantos, the number of lines, the terza rima that is used, the vulgate that is used, so many things throughout. But what I want to concentrate on is the title of this, right? The Divine Center of Dante's Comedy. And what is that? Well, if we look at the way that it's set up, as you know, it starts in Inferno, which is hell, and that is 34 cantos, followed by Purgatorio, which is 33, and then finally Heaven, which is also 33. Now, it's no wonder why 33 is used for Purgatory and Heaven. Perfect number, the triune God twice. But that 34, we may wonder what's going on there. But the 34 is to show us how disordered hell is. Hell should not exist. It doesn't have to, but because of the fall of Adam and Eve, it does. And that disorder is shown in the 34 cantos rather than the 33. So instead of 99, we now have 100. So although I'm an English teacher, I can do the math, and I know at the middle is 50. And so what I sought to do is, okay, what is Dante really trying to tell me? And if Dante is using all of this order, it must be at the center. And so I went to Canto 50. Canto 50, which is actually Canto 16 of Purgatorio, he meets the Lombard. And this is the center of the comedy. And it is simply this. When he talks to the Lombard, he asks him questions, and the Lombard basically tells him the reason for all of this stuff. Why do bad things happen to other people? What is the answer? It is free will. And he focuses on that. I wrote a paper for that during my master's class and focused just on that Canto 50. 50 in the middle of the total of 100, the 33 plus the 34 plus the 33 equaling 100, finding that center. And lo and behold, there it was, that free will. And when Dante realizes that and internalizes that, I mean, folks, he's seen hell. He's seen all these punishments. He's even seen Satan himself being eating Cassius and Brutus and Judas. He's seen all these things, and he's making his way up the Mount of Purgatorio. Now, we know that Dante started from the very beginning when he lost his way in the wood of error. And that question really follows. What was his error? Well, his error was to think that he could do everything, to think that this is an unjust God because, look, I'm kicked out of my beloved Florence, and so it must be that God doesn't exist. But in Canto 50, he internalizes, finally, once and for all, that it is free will. That people who go to hell choose hell because they can't take the opposite. Of course, earlier in hell, he meets Francesco and Paola, and this is kind of your Romeo and Juliet story. And to whittle it down, they are wrapped up in their passions, but they can't touch one another. But Francesco and Paola come and talk to Dante. And Dante swoons and actually faints at their story. He can't believe how sad it is that they were both killed by Francesco's brother who found them together. And the idea is that as he starts to move forward, he starts to understand, oh, maybe there's a reason. But that doesn't go away until Canto 16 in Purgatorio, the very center. And lo and behold, Dante, being the genius he is, where else would he have it but in the center? And there it was, in the center. Okay? Again, kind of like our Tootsie Pops. What's at the center? That candy, that sweetness, the thing that we're targeting, that bullseye's in the middle. And that's where it was. Because soon after the Lombard leaves, guess who else leaves? Well, that would be his mentor and guide, okay? His pagan mentor and guide, and that is Virgil. And he has that beautiful line, I crown and martyr thee, Lord of thyself. And that happens in Canto 18, I think, so 2 cantos later. Why does he crown and mitre him Lord of himself? Because he now understands it is because of his own choosing that he was in that heir of wood to begin with. It was because of his own choosing that those people that he saw in hell truly deserved to be there, because they wouldn't take the opposite. They couldn't love. So they would go deeper and deeper into their infirmities, deeper and deeper into their sin and their vices. And of course, I'll have a whole nother video about the symbolic retributions, which are so amazing. But here at the center is the center. When he says, I crown and mitre thee, Lord of thyself, that is what we get at baptism. We get to be that Lord of ourselves. God is so infinite and so powerful, and in the medieval mind, he controls and orders everything. But the one thing he doesn't order, not because he can't, but because he chooses not to, is us. We know that from Adam and Eve, and we know that we have that choice. God does not force us to love him. That would make us slaves. And although it would be easy for him to make himself known and show himself whenever we asked. But how much faith would that take? And Dante goes through this and then understands it is my free will. People often ask, why do bad things happen to innocent people? And the answer is free will. It's because people exercise their free will on others. And that free will can be used for great good and wonderful things, but it can also be used for great evil. Think about wars in history. It's not started by the masses. It's started by the few. Most of our revolutions, by the way, are not started in the grassroots. That's a lie. Those are started by usually the aristocracy, that upper middle class, nobility, who get these ideas and then foment them. But we make those choices. Think of World War II and Hitler's vendetta. Could have ended a long time ago, but no, pushing forward, wanting to do more, wanting to do these things was his own demise, his own undoing. We see this also in other great literature like Macbeth, where Macbeth, of course, doesn't have to kill the king. He's his cousin. He's his lord. He's also his guest in his own house. I mean, even today we don't do that. And yet he decides his own choice. Now, of course, he is tempted in a sense by his wife, Lady Macbeth. But that parallel to Adam and Eve is very clear there. God does not let Adam off the hook. It is his fault that he wasn't there tending to his wife and protecting her. But he has to suffer as well. And he does. In the same way, Macbeth has to suffer for his own wrongdoings, and he does. And Shakespeare shows us this so beautifully, that free will, it's such a beautiful gift. But like a gift, it sits there. And we can use it if we want to. We still get it. But how do we use it? Okay? Do we neglect it and leave it over to the side? That's why those people who say, grace is a free gift and your salvation is a free gift. Well, yeah, it is. But what do we do with that gift? Right? You can give it to me. Doesn't mean I'm going to open it. Doesn't mean I'm going to keep it. And sometimes we forget about this. And so Dante's telling us about that wonderful free gift of our free will. And what are we going to do about that? Soon after, of course, Dante gets the P's taken off of his forehead as he moves forward. And eventually, of course, makes that dip into the river Lethe, and then makes the cross into paradise and finally into heaven in the beatific vision. And it is a comedy because that is the ending for all of us if we exercise our free will. So I wanted to talk to you about this, such a difficult piece of literature, but when you bring it down, you see the order in the center, and that divine center is our free will. Thanks so much for joining me. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become a subscriber, and we'll have more content for those of you who are interested in knowing all things that are common sense. May God bless you. Angel kiss you, devil miss you, and Jesus love you. Take care.